We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Urgency of Change. This week's episode features Krishnamurti in conversation with Daniel O'Hanlon, entitled Beyond Organised Religion. Episodes 17 and 18 are conversations with Alain Naudet. This podcast is brought to you by Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in the UK. Please visit our newly updated website at kfoundation.org, where you can find information about Krishnamurti, along with more than 20 in-depth articles, each based on the central theme of his work, handpicked by the Foundation staff. You can also find daily quotes on Instagram and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. Daniel O'Hanlon was a Jesuit priest and respected theologian. He taught at Marymount University in Los Angeles and for more than 30 years at the Jesuit School of Theology in Berkeley. He had many contacts in other religions, particularly of Asia, and included aspects of these religions in his teaching. Interested in integration of religions, in 1984 he published Integration of Christian Practices, A Western Christian Looks East. This conversation with Krishnamurti, recorded in Malibu, California in 1972, asks whether organized religion brings about real depth of understanding. Does the past have any value in coming upon something new? Can the mind empty itself of the pettiness of what man has put together? Thought can be used legitimately and illegitimately. Krishnamurti urges us to find out if there is something beyond tradition and myth.
It's hard to know where to begin, isn't it? I have the impression, having read some of your writings, that we would have things to talk about, but I don't know where to begin, And in a certain sense, I have the advantage of having read something of yours, and I'm sort of an unknown quantity to you. So, where shall we begin? I don't really know. In one way, I feel a little out of place because in reading your writings, I feel that people who are connected with organized religion in any way don't come off too well. And I am quite clearly, part of a very discernible, tangible phenomenon on the religious horizon. I guess you'd have to say I'm part of organized religion in some fashion.
So do you think we could start why there is division amongst all religions?
Mm-hmm.
The Protestant, the Catholics, the Episcopalian, the Hindu, the Muslim, the Buddhist, the Jain, there are dozens and dozens of divisions.
Right. Well, I'm certain that I feel fairly certain that one of the very significant reasons why that's true is that human experience in different places and in different circumstances is, culturally diverse. People grow up with different backgrounds and in so many ways, and when they come to express the religious dimension of their lives, the garment which it wears, the form in which it's expressed bears the imprint of the place from which they come. In fact, that's one of the questions I'm putting to myself in this year of sabbatical leave, which I have coming up next year, is to try to, given the fact of this great diversity, to try to, in conversation with people who come out of these different traditions and going beyond the Christian tradition in which I have grown up, to try to discover what is that common, basic human dimension that we all share. So, as a beginning toward the question which you ask, I would say I think the difference comes from just the variety of human backgrounds and different historical, cultural, economic circumstances. Now that maybe isn't the most profound kind of an explanation,
but also these various groups condition their children, their grandchildren, and so on. Right through the world this takes place.
Yes.
So there is this cultural, economic, social conditioning, religious conditioning. If I am born as a Baptist, I am forever a Baptist.
Well,
unless I change over.
Yeah, I think in our world today, the movement from one place to another is probably greater because the people are aware of various other possibilities.
I mean, I know several Hindus who have become Protestants. Mm-hmm. Protestants who have become Catholics.
Right.
It's the same from one, if I may use the word cage, to another cage.
Yeah. Well, the kind of things which people do hand on to their children from generation to generation, it seems to me, are a mixture. Like everything human, there are good things and there are bad things in them. And I think, having read some of your writings, I would be less inclined to think that all of the things which come out of man's past are to be rejected. It seems I would have the feeling that through the growing experience of men and communities over the centuries of human life, there would be the possibility of them discovering, becoming aware of certain dimensions of human existence, and handing on that experience. I'm a little puzzled at some stages in reading your writings to find that, at least I have the impression that all things which exist out of memory in time and thought are looked upon as in a sort of a negative way. You see my problem?
Yes, I understand.
No, I'm perfectly, willing to recognize that this dimension is there. The limitation, the kind of formalistic imprisonment in which people do find themselves by the way they have inherited and live in their religious traditions. But I certainly have met people who are living within these traditions, who find somehow within this a sense of freedom, a sense of peace, a sense of genuine love at some depths, you know.
Oh, this, of course. But do you think, we're talking, sharing out, do you think if I, as a Catholic or a Hindu, remain there and find peace and tranquility and all the rest of it, is it due to the conduct of my life, or is it due to certain beliefs and concepts which I have, and I accept them, and they give me tremendous satisfaction, and I call that peace, tranquility?
I don't think it comes from concepts, no. I would agree with you there. I think that this deeper dimension of experience, or of experiencing, as I think you refer to it, is the important thing.
But the experiencing, or that quality of mind that perceives, it doesn't belong to any group.
Well, in a sense, I think that's true, but I think it does happen in groups, and to some extent, I would be willing to believe that it happens as a result of the kind of things which have gone on over the centuries in those groups. That there's a kind of an inherited,
Unconscious, deep, racial.
well, I don't know how to put it, but it seems to me that, I guess what I'm saying is that I really feel that we do profit and learn from those who have gone before us, and are able to share in some way, to, as a consequence of that, to more easily achieve this wisdom, this peace, this reality, this deep reality of love. But I would, I think we would be in very solid agreement that whether the concepts, the thoughts, those things on that level are not the
real
center.
No.
They're not the central issue. But I don't think I would see them in quite the same way as you do, necessarily as obstacles. I can see that they could be obstacles if they're made into things in themselves. But I would be more inclined to see them having the possibility of being the means through which, the setting in which, the symbols through which this deeper reality is reached, you know?
Are you saying, sir, that the tradition, whether the Asiatic tradition or European tradition, has something in it, has some truth in it, which is embedded in the unconscious, or whatever you like to call it, in the mind, through centuries, and that you can't put all that, throw it all out, but use it, let it operate?
I guess, yes, I think that's I think that's sort of what I'm saying, that
I will, this question, because if I'm born as a Catholic or a Hindu, I'll take Hindu, doesn't matter whether they're Catholic or Hindu. All the racial concepts, beliefs, the enormous tradition of 5,000 years gathered in the forefathers, handed over from generation to generation, twisted, a little bit colored, at a bias, all that is in me, Catholic, Protestant, whatever it is. And will that actually, I'm just inquiring, will that actually bring real depth of understanding?
certainly not in an automatic way. And
No, I'm understanding, see something totally original, in the sense something new that's never been handed over. After all,
well,
the whole idea, the whole idea of the Greeks with their measurement, the Hindus who stepped out of measurement, trying to find the immeasurable. And measuring it by thought, calling it immeasurable. Experiencing that, saying that exists. All that's handed over to a born Hindu. Surely, in all this, there must be an opening, if I can, a door through which I see, through which there is a perception, which is unrelated to all the things that have been handed to me.
why does it have to be unrelated to all
Because-
the things which have happened to me?
That thing must be totally new. New not in sense of old and new, but something entirely different. Not to be captured by thought, by sentiment, by the accumulated experience of generations, which are all in time. That must be something.
Well, I think this is where some of my problems emerge with that. I don't think I feel that there is that kind of gap between the reality of time and this deeper dimension, which is below thought and time. I think I'm more inclined to see these as having an integral relationship to each other, and that when one says that there is newness, there is freshness, there is originality, creativity.
I mean, those are just words.
Yes, but the reality which lies underneath those words. It seems to me the reality which lies underneath those words can be in some way assisted, influenced, engendered, like Socrates as the midwife, in such a way that they
I understand
help,
this.
like our conversation now.
I understand this very well, because this is what the whole traditionalists and non-traditionalists maintain, that the past helps, to put it brutally. The past has some value in coming upon that thing.
Yeah,
Now,
I think so.
So if I am egocentric, not only outwardly but inwardly, concerned with myself and my progress, my experience, my possession, domination, all that, self-centered, we'll use that word, which is also part of this whole tradition, movement of this tradition. That self-centered may be attached to an idea, to a nation, to a deity, to a concept, to a ritual, to a something, which is all the past. My self-centeredness is the cultural residue, religious aspirations that I must become God or perfect or reach heaven, nirvana, whatever it is. All that is enclosed, if I can use that word, in my self-centered outlook, in my self-centered ambitious drive, aggression, all that. That's part of the past.
Yes, I feel that, at least in the Christian tradition in which I have grown up, that I have been constantly encouraged to somehow escape
from the self.
that kind of self-centeredness.
In India too, they maintain that.
No, I don't maintain that I have achieved, the
freedom
full
from
reality of genuine love in which I go out of myself, but at least this is proposed to me as what should happen, and I really think I've been thinking this over, looking over reading your writings and trying to understand. I think there is something very similar in what you are saying and what the kind of things I read in people like John of the Cross and the various mystic writers, even in the New Testament where it speaks of the seed falling into the ground and dying. And even perhaps in the central reality of Christian belief, which has to do with the death and resurrection of Jesus and our entering into that this may not be that different from what you speak of, a dying to all of these things and an entering into the void in some sense. If we are genuinely loving, then we are not, as my students say, on an ego trip. We are truly, I don't claim that I have achieved that. In fact, I'm afraid I haven't. But that we really are not self-centered. We're outgoing.
I want to go into this a little bit, if I may. If there is self-centeredness of the kind we are talking about, that must be set aside. That must be negated.
I think so.
The very negation of that opens the door.
Well, yes, I think so.
That is what we're talking about, aren't we, you and I?
I think we're saying something very similar.
Similar. Now wait a minute, sir.
Maybe not, but it seems so at the moment at least.
You see, the whole Asiatic outlook, as I understand it, may be mistaken, is that self-centered, self-concerned, self-assertion exists round a soul, an Atman, a God, a truth. And through various incarnations, it may be a day, or it may be many lives, you peel off the self. Till that center is reached, which is the assumption that there is a center. You're clothed with various kinds of idiotic things, superstitions, half-truths for hypocrisy, jealousy, envy, but peel it off. And gradually you reach whatever is to be reached. I think that's more or less the various religious concepts.
Well, well, say a little more about that. I'm not quite sure
That maintains a continuity of self-centeredness. I'll reach God if I do the right thing, sit on his right hand, all the rest of it. This personalized, personal experience becomes very important. And that personal experience is part of this self-centeredness. And that keeps me going, gives me vitality, gives me, I become more and more mischievous in a different way and more righteous in another way. A contradiction grows in me. And all this is the past. And unless there is a definite negation of this, not verbally or conceptually, but actually negation of all this, not gradually, but to cut it out instantly. I think that is the central issue. Whether the Hindus say it in one way, the Christians say it another way, or so on. That is the central issue. Because born in Europe, I might believe in Jesus and Savior and resurrection and all that. And in India, I believe something else. I say there is no, I never heard of Jesus. What are you talking about? Why should some man suffer for me? It's my karma, my misery I brought into this world. I am mischievous. So it is a matter of conditioning, one this way. So I say, look at all, this whole phenomena, East and West, all of them trying to reach something, because this world is such a shoddy affair anyhow. Whether you're a millionaire or a poor man, whether you're a communist or a marvelous artist or a spiritual, whatever it is, it's that dreadful world we live in, brought about by our lack of right relationship. And that right relationship can't exist if the self-centered thing continues.
Well, I think I don't say that this is the only thing which Christians say.
No, they
But
say
I
much
think,
more, of course.
Yes, but I think this may be the central thing which they mean to say, as I understand the message of the gospel, that it is only in dying,
Of course, sir.
that we enter into
Dying
life.
to that.
Yes. But
So may I put it this way differently?
yes.
I don't read books of any kind. The Upanishads, Gita, all that. I don't read. Somehow I've never read it. Philosophies and all that. Suppose you and I never read a thing. You and I don't belong to anything, or committed to any group, any religion. And we say, now, there must be something more than this ordinary world. The communists say, yes, there is only a super state, but I'm not talking of that. There must be something more than this awful living. Battle, move inside, outside, this chaos that's going on. So I say, no, I'm going to find out. I really want to find out. Therefore, I must have a mind that is never, not capable of illusion at all. You follow, sir? That to me is the essence of inquiry.
Complete openness is what you are asking for.
No, not complete openness. I know nothing. I don't know God exists. People have told me. I don't know if somebody came to life after death. I don't know. They say so. That may be 60, 100 years after, when the disciples know what they are, exaggerate propaganda, anything is possible, as they did with the Buddha, as they did various other teachers. I say, I know nothing. I won't accept a thing. I want to find out. Not that I'm vain, or that be stupid. So as I know nothing, I can only begin with what is, and not to get deceived, not to be caught in an illusion, whether that illusion is self-created or projected. Then I can begin to find out.
I'm afraid that I don't have the same confidence in the possibility of man beginning in that kind of totally unoriginated way. It seems to me that our experience of children growing up is that the child who does not grow up within the setting of other human beings never even becomes human. I think that
children need security.
Yes.
Children need protection.
And we do really, I think, whether we like it or not, and I think there are good elements to it, I think that from living with our parents and other people, even if we don't read books, because books are simply a more sophisticated way of living with other people, that we do...
through observation.
Yes, but, well, even the language we use, we're speaking the English language, and that carries with it a certain...
Of course, certain images, certain styles, certain nuances and references and all the rest of it. But, how do we meet then? How a man says, I want to find out. Mm-hmm. I don't say there is or there is not. Mm-hmm. I want to find out. Mm-hmm. And to find out, I must have a mind that is really clear. Mm-hmm. that cannot be deceived, because it's very easy to deceive myself.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I don't think any of us are completely free of being deceived. Our understanding is always, limited and fragmentary.
So I say to myself, I'll begin with myself. I know nothing about God, anything. I'll begin with myself. I'll find out how to inquire so that the self doesn't enter into the field at all. No jealousy, no possessiveness, all the rigmarole the self is caught in. I go into it. I'm facing.
It's easier to say than to do, isn't it?
Yes, otherwise, what's the point of all this?
Yeah.
What's the point of my believing there is a Brahman or there is God? Well, it has no meaning. My life is there, and I have to do something with it. I can't just say, well, I live casually or very seriously. It is my life. It is the thing I have got.
That's right.
And I have to either to radically revolutionize myself. And it is possible. And I say, I'll take exactly what is. I won't imagine. I won't contrive to change what is.
I think that's what we're all trying to do.
So look at it, face it. Mm-hmm. Then, if I observe that thing without all the speculative translations of what is, then I have energy to go much deeper into it. I don't know this.
Well, I really think that, as I was saying earlier on, that I'm less inclined to feel that all of the thoughts and the writings and the ideas that surround us are totally a hindrance. I think there are things that can help us. Well, no.
All right, sir. That
For
means
instance, people read your writings, and I think that this probably helps them to move toward a deeper level, which is not being caught simply in what somebody says because somebody else said it, but kind of helps them to deal directly with their own experience and their own contact with what is. But I feel a bit uneasy about this kind of cleavage between, what is and...
no, it's not a cleavage.
Maybe I'm not understanding.
No, I'm afraid no. I don't know anything. So I know nothing beyond what is. Mm-hmm. The what is my shoddiness. My little anxieties, worries, fears, jealous, this self-centered movement that goes on eternally. So that is what I know, both consciously as well as unconsciously. That's my basket of goods. And I want to understand that and see what happens from that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. All I'm saying is that I don't see the kind of things which other people, the kind of efforts which other people have made, presumably to do something similar,
Are valueless.
Are valueless.
I don't say that.
Oh, well.
I know nothing about them. They have told me, if I was born as a Brahmin, they said, do this and do that. I said, all right, but that's all hearsay. That's what you believe, what you don't believe, what somebody else says, that's all rubbish. The communist says, for goodness sake, well, there is no such thing as God, there is no such thing as the priest. It's all bourgeois mentality and brush it all out. So I said, all right. I said, let's begin with something very common, which is what I am. I won't introduce into what I am all kinds of speculative ideas, just what I am. The knowing of myself is the beginning of wisdom.
I don't deny that.
But so therefore, from that question arises, is it possible to do this?
Is it possible
to empty all this? Empty the mind of all this trivialities and pettiness, and you follow the whole works.
I think it's very difficult. Actually, there is a way in which well, maybe here we're saying the same thing, but I think there is a way in which I don't feel I want to empty myself of all of the collective experience of my fellow human beings down through the centuries. I feel that there is some value in being born as a part of that, and that my life here on earth is not simply a matter of this deepest dimension. It is centrally that. But that deepest dimension should give a quality to all of the rest of
course, that's understood.
Of what happens.
But the deepest thing cannot flower, if you can put it, has no beauty if the thing is surrounded by shoddy little me.
Fine.
So from that question comes, can the mind empty itself of the pettiness? We call that pettiness, including all the things that man has put together. Whether he calls it noble or ignorant, all that pettiness, invented by thought.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't really think that everything invented by thought is petty. I think that's where my problem is. There are many things which thought has invented which are petty and trivial, but
so
I don't think that
let's look at it. What thought has created, the marvelous technology, going to the moon, going over the rest of it, it is the result of thought. Marvelous.
One of the results of thought.
One of the results. Mm-hmm. Thought also has divided the countries. My country, your country, my God, your God, my security. It seeks security. In that process, it has created various pockets, divided. Of all, Pakistani fighting India. What the heck? What is killing?
Yes.
America killing those people and those people killing Americans.
Do you think that thought is the reason for that?
Partly. Which is, all the rest of it. Thought has created not only the marvelous things, comforts and physical well-being and all that, but also thought has created this division between people.
Well,
and also thought says, I must find unity. On the one hand, look at it, what's going on. One hand, they say we must have peace. Other hand, you have wars.
I would be more inclined to think that that our human selfishness has more to do with wars.
Of course,
than
which is
thought.
part of our thinking. Me first and you second.
Well, maybe we're thinking of, maybe we're using the word thought in different ways. That's possible.
Perhaps.
Maybe
Thought in the sense, thought is the response of the collective or racial or individual memories. I am born in India, all the tradition, all that stuff, and I call myself a Brahmin, if I do, and I have certain vanity, pride, all the business that goes with selected people, like the Jews, all that business. So, thought is the response of memory. Otherwise, if I have no memory, there's no thinking. Thought, memory as knowledge, experience.
Isn't it possible in my thought to remember something good?
Oh yes, which is still thought. That's what I mean. It is thought, which creates what is good or its opposite.
Well, certainly, there are various things that can be done with thought. It can be.
Of course, it can be legitimately used and illegitimately used.
Right.
We do both. We don't say, well, this is where legitimately the thought has its function.
But don't you think that when when thought becomes harmful and divisive and destructive,
That's illegitimate.
don't you think that the reason that happens is not simply because there is thought, but because there is selfishness?
That's what, of course,
Yeah.
I don't say because thought is
it's a matter of-
illegitimately used when it is selfish.
Yeah, maybe it's the way we're using words.
Yeah, that's all.
Takes us a long time to talk back and forth before we see what we're doing with our words.
So, sir, can the mind be free of the self? I would come back to that. The free of the self being both good and bad, the opposites. The self which says, I must behave beautifully, conduct is necessary, etc. And thought also invents the gun, which I'm going to kill somebody, with which. So that goes on in me, this contradiction all the time. And that's part of the egotistic way I'm living. Now I say to myself, now can this thing be legitimately used in one direction and not at all in another direction? I mean legitimately in the sense, I must, if I'm in a relationship with any human being, I must protect, I must look after, you follow, care, build roads, not cut up hills, make the world beautiful, not my country, my home, But the illegitimacy of thought exists when I use thought as myself expanding. aggressive, violent, becoming, the chief minister of a blasted little country.
Yeah. So well, maybe it would seem that we're agreeing on that.
Then the next step is, how is this to be done?
Difficult.
No, I don't think so, sir. I think it difficult. I think it requires a great deal of energy. Both physical and psychological energy.
Well, maybe certainly my experience is limited and.
No, sir, we're not
imperfect.
talking limited experience.
Well, I have to speak out of what happens to me in order to try to understand what we're saying. And for me, to really become an unselfish, loving person is something which is a constant effort.
You see, effort is distortion. To function without friction. That is the real question. Here I am, a bundle of idiocy. Now, how is it to be shod or set aside without the least effort? Which means effort means friction. Effort means will.
Yeah, this is actually, since you mentioned you haven't read these various traditional writings, that this is a very classic notion in the Christian tradition that if one does achieve the reality of love in any deep and profound way, one receives it as a grace. One does not lay hold of it and seize it and grasp it. But in some mysterious way, one must use this energy which you speak of in a somewhat passive and negative way, and the grace, this is given to me. It's not something which I can summon up by my own efforts.
No, but I need energy, right?
Well, that's where it gets difficult.
No, I need energy. Because I'm dissipating this energy logically and illogically. And if the mind can use it logically and not illogically, illegitimately, then there is there is an abundance of it. This contradiction is wastage of energy. So can this contradiction come to an end in myself? I see it can come to an end if I watch, if there is an awareness of what's going on. Without any choice, without any compulsion, without any direction, just to watch, be aware that I am stupid ass, or that I am completely caught in my own little thoughts and, paddling in a little pond. To be aware of that, choicelessly.
Yes, I'm afraid I don't entirely understand that. But
you see, that's why
I think I see something of it, from the remarks I've made. I think that
yes, there is a communication, obviously.
To some extent, but I have the feeling for myself that for you, the ability to kind of achieve this in a flash, in a total way, is something which does not seem possible to me.
No, I think it is possible. So I think it may be a verbal blockage. Mm. And it seems so frightfully simple to you.
I can see that it does seem very simple to you, the way you put it, and
to see something, sir, directly. To see the flower and not bring in the image of the flower. Same way, to see what is in myself without any preconceived idea or image or concept, just to see. Because the image, the concept, the contrivance is wastes energy, takes it away. So I said, I'm going to watch, I'm going to see, without any effort.
Well, I in a sense I follow you, and in a sense I don't. I in a sense I see what you're describing, but I've not succeeded in.
Of course, description is not the described. I mean, the word isn't the thing. But
no, but I mean, I haven't succeeded in realizing in myself, in a concrete way, that I see in that sense.
Quite. You see, to step out of all this with one doesn't mean you cut off your human relationship. Doesn't mean that you stop being a good citizen, or just grow long hair, short hair. You become. It means a tremendous living differently.
Well,
and then you see, sir, what we call God or whatever that is cannot be measured. And my mind is always measuring. Because the whole Western world is based on measurement.
However, I would want to say that there is, in the Christian tradition in which I live, there is a permanent element which says precisely that God is not measurable, that thought in the sense of conceptual thought is quite incapable of grasping or reaching.
Therefore, thought must be quiet.
Yes.
No, that's it.
Fine. And then this is, I don't find this a foreign notion. I find, if I read Teresa of Avila, if I read John of the Cross, or I find them saying, St. Teresa talks about the mind being a little monkey chasing around in the middle of her head, distracting her from.
There's a famous book by a Tibetan. I never read it, but a friend of mine was telling me the Buddha is sitting quietly, meditating, and suddenly in his hand appears the monkey. And the monkey says, Lord, here I am. At last I've reached you. I'm in your hand. And the Buddha says, oh, is that so? And he said, I can do anything because I've traveled so long, for so many ages. I can fly, I can do anything you want. I've conquered evil, I've conquered, boasting and say, here I am, at last I've reached your hand. And the Buddha says, what next? He says, I'll show you. I'll go right round the world, over the heavens and come back. Buddha looks at it. He said, but you just had made a little mess in my hand.
Yeah, this sounds like these Zen Buddhist
That's it.
koans, doesn't it? Yeah. I think one of the difficulties I'm having in trying to understand better what you're saying and trying to see to what extent it agrees with, what I am and the way I live and the kind of things that my, whatever you want to call it, my inner life. I see a problem in a kind of an integration of man's whole life, his history, his body, his mind, his emotions. I don't feel that these are, I guess I'm repeating myself at this stage, but I don't feel that these are necessarily only obstacles. They can be obstacles.
No, they can be, of course.
They can be, but
we're saying there must be harmony between the body, mind, and heart, and the whole structure.
Yeah. I think maybe I would be saying a bit more that even harmony with man's collective history. I think that even there can be an element of something positive. I don't see the things coming out of man's collective experience as being simply cages,
No, collective experiences, racial, collective, family, individual experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I carry them? I am that. I am that. I don't say I am not that. But the whole million years or whatever as a human being has collected all this.
Mm-hmm.
Falseness, truth, every kind of collection it has. It's like a museum. And I say it's excellent. I'll take something out of it and then drop the rest. The rest has no value. But that taking out, selection, is not going to give me the door which opens. The door, the key to the door.
Isn't it conceivable that there have been people in this tradition who have found the key to the door?
Or is it, sir, or is it knowing the tradition, they stepped out of it?
Well, no, if by definition one
Tradore.
has to step out of the tradition in order to do this, then I would have to agree with what you're saying. Maybe again here words are an obstacle to what we're trying to do.
I mean, take what happens, sir. I mean, take a very orthodox family, whether in Europe or in Asia, in the religious sense orthodox. In the old days, my fathers and all the rest of it, they said, don't kill, don't kill, don't kill. Be kind. You have advanced, in the sense of Brahman, higher than the others. So you pay attention, look, be kind, be generous, and all that stuff. That's racial inheritance. One is that. But that doesn't, you can be desperately good, in the beautiful sense of that word. But that doesn't.
Yeah. But isn't it also possible for one to inherit the message, the encouragement?
I don't want to be I want to find out.
All right.
I don't want to be encouraged by my fathers.
Suppose they encourage you to find out.
And no, on the contrary, they don't. They say, look, follow tradition, be Brahman, be, you
I
follow.
think we're understanding tradition perhaps in different ways. I think
Again.
if tradition is simply a rigid pattern that says,
No,
take this.
The word itself means to give over, carry over.
That's what the word means, that's right.
Carry over.
To hand on.
Hand on. Well, I'm full of hand carrying on.
But aren't you at the moment trying to hand on something to me?
No, sir. Forgive me, I'm not. Because that would be.
What are you doing? I mean,
we are trying to inquire into this. You and I, applying our minds and our hearts and everything, and at a level where there is an intensity, an affection, a love, see what this is, how to go beyond this.
Well, I think that's the way things are handed on. Maybe this, maybe the word handed on has pejorative overtones that make it an unsuitable phrase to use.
I mean, I've seen in India, in Benares and other places, the weavers, they, out of tradition, they do things, most marvelous things. As though it was something original and really extraordinarily beautiful. But it's all carried over. Unconsciously, it happens with them. You see them doing it.
Yeah. Well, if tradition is simply that, I would agree that it's
of course, that's death.
It's a deathly thing. Yes.
I agree. I think most of us agree.
But maybe I don't understand tradition just in that sense. Maybe that's the difference here. I really do feel that.
So take, for instance, tradition of a myth. Myth is a form of tradition which holds people together. Together in a society. Like the Brahmanical or the Asiatic world, that India had certain religious division and looked at all that business. So it held for a while, for centuries and centuries. Now it is disappearing because the myth is broken. And they are trying to invent or supplement or find a new myth that will hold the people together. This is what's happening in this country. There is no myth here. And therefore everybody, That's also deep, unconscious, traditional acceptance of a myth. When that goes, people, therefore, that kind of tradition is both destructive and helpful. But we are not talking of destructive or helpful. We are trying to find out something that's beyond all this.
Yeah, well, that's maybe just the point at which we're having our problem, because whereas what we're looking for is beyond all this, I don't think I feel in the same way as you do that it kind of happens by a total separation from.
And no,
from
it's
all
not
that.
separation. It's seeing the false as the false, which doesn't mean I'm separating. Seeing something not true.
Fine, certainly no one can object to that.
So I have to. So you see, that's one's difficulty. We have so many collections of things, and I have to see the truth in the false, and the false in the truth. I have to tread on such so delicately.
No, I think that's everyone. Every responsible human being comes to the point of having to make, this personal option, or this personal way of shaping his life. The way I understand what comes from tradition, it's not simply a routine thing like these people making the rugs, but it's something which comes, and presumably, if and I think even more in the kind of world we live in today, when a person reaches a stage of awareness, that person has to make a decision. He has to make a choice, and it's a personal involvement. He may reject everything in that setting in which he has grown up.
Is truth a matter of choice?
No. Well, yes and no. I think it's a matter of choice in the sense that I can refuse to see it if I care to. I think we're put together in such a way that that's possible. But basically, I think I would agree with you. Truth is a matter of seeing or not
perception.
seeing.
And in perception, there is no choice. There it is.
Well, the very fact that many people don't see these things would suggest to me that there's some kind of choice involved in what happens to them so that they don't see it. I mean, people, in a sense, choose not to see.
Oh, well, I mean, they want to deceive themselves.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right, do deceive. That's well.
I think that's a very common thing. I'm sure I do it myself. To really be, fully open to truth is a difficult thing.
But so I think one has to begin right at the bottom. Yeah. Right. Begin their first step. Negate all the thing man has put together about virtue, goodness, truth, love, God, and begin. And say, look, I'm going to. There must be true perception. I must see things clearly, not out of vanity or anything stupid stuff like that. But otherwise, if I don't see clearly the way I live, the way I believe, why I believe, see that clearly, there is no honesty in me. And if there is no honesty, how can I see the other?
Yeah, well, I'm not denying that this seeing is very basic. I think maybe this is introducing a new dimension to our discussion, but I think that we are maybe just restating what I said a moment ago. That if we really do see ourselves as we are, we will see that we are the kind of creatures, kind of beings, for whom the matter is not decided simply by seeing. My freedom is engaged. This is an old kind of an argument. Plato apparently felt that to see the truth would automatically produce goodness in a person. I feel that seeing is tremendously important. It is.
If I see a precipice, if I see a danger, I avoid it. That is the truth.
Well, not everybody does.
Therefore, see what you are.
Yeah.
Not through colored glasses, not through prejudices, wishing, oh, I were not like this, I will.
Then you feel that. Where does freedom come in? That's my
freedom.
problem.
That is freedom. I cannot see if there is no freedom. If I am prejudiced, then I can't see. Seeing the truth of that frees me from prejudice. Seeing, there is no perception if I am greedy. Greedy not only outwardly but inwardly, reaching God, you follow this ambitious drive of comparison, all that. If I see that, to see that, there must be freedom. So, freedom is perception.
Well,
not to do what I like. Not to burn the houses and throw bombs.
Yeah, I would have thought that that freedom and truth are inextricably related.
They are, sir.
But that they're not the same thing.
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah.
I said freedom is necessary to perceive. What you perceive and how you perceive matters.
Yeah. But I find that I have the possibility of seeing something and then freely choosing to act, not in accordance with what I see.
Because we don't see. If I saw a cobra, there is no choice. If I saw a precipice, there is no choice. I don't say to a bomb that's going to burst, well, I'll choose. I run.
Yeah, well, I don't. Those are examples where that's what normally would happen.
Go further, go deeper. If I see greed is the greatest danger, because it divides man, it does horrible things to people. I see that. Then it's finished. And also I see fear very clearly what it does to the mind. Conscious or unconscious fear. So you follow?
Yeah.
It is the lack of completely seeing that makes it difficult.
Yeah, I'm still a little puzzled about the role of freedom in here. I can see that a very close association between seeing and freedom, but the well, maybe the way it works is I am free to choose not to see. Maybe
that's not. I mean, if I refuse to see the danger, well, I refuse to see it.
Yeah.
So I refuse to the danger of killing people. Pakistan, India, Vietnam, or whatever. I refuse to see the awfulness of it.
That's where freedom is exercised badly.
No, it's my stupidity I refuse to see. Because I want my security. I want to live as I am. It doesn't matter if my son gets killed.
See, what's puzzling me is, if some people see and some people don't see, how does that happen?
Partly because our education, partly our society, our culture. We listen to Nixon XYZ and says, oh, this is most important. And I love to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And also I love to be follow somebody because I can't think clearly. A dozen reasons.
Yeah. So I still am puzzled about the freedom bit because it would. I think freedom is of course, freedom can be used in two ways. We can speak of freedom as the kind of positive achievement of liberation, or we can speak of freedom as the ability to choose between
That's not freedom.
alternatives.
That's not freedom. Is that freedom when there is choice, is there freedom?
Well, that's certainly the way the word is usually used.
I know, but is there in freedom a choice?
Well, let's take whether I choose to see or not to see.
But
seems to me that there is an exercise of freedom there.
You choose in freedom to see or not to see.
Mm-hmm.
Is that freedom?
Well, it depends. I guess it depends how you want to define freedom. See, I think, as I say, one can speak of freedom as the liberation which comes from having moved in the right direction, as it were. Or one can speak of freedom as the possibility which man has
of going right or wrong.
Right or wrong.
I mean, we're talking of total freedom, not in which choices.
What would we call that in man which gives him the possibility of moving one way or the other, of choosing right or wrong?
The Hindus call it karma. You know what that means? My samskara, the way I have lived.
But that's not freedom, though.
I'm just showing you that it.
I mean, in that description, it's determined, isn't it?
Yes, that is determination through the freedom of choice.
Mm-hmm.
I determine to go there instead of there or there.
Yeah.
Depending on my past memories, experiences, racial and all the rest of it. And that's not freedom.
Mm.
Where there is choice, how can there be freedom?
Well, again, it depends on how you're using the word. It seems to me that the normal English.
I know, sir, the normal thing is
English
very clear.
Usage
Yeah,
is that.
of course. But choice, why do I have to choose at all?
Well, that's.
Because I'm uncertain, I'm unclear. Why do I have to choose between Mr. Nixon and Mr. X? Why? Both are wrong, both create division in the world. Why should I choose between them?
Well, it's quite possible that if you're choosing between the two of them, one might create a little less division than the other.
Maybe less or more. I mean, the whole question of choice exists only when I'm uncertain, when I'm unclear, when I'm confused.
Yeah.
If I know the road from here to Santa Barbara, there is no choice. I know exactly what road to take and go. It's only when I'm uncertain, I begin to ask, I begin to question, and you follow? So, uncertainty, unclarity makes me choose. Sorry. And that's not freedom.
Yeah. What word would you use to when you're speaking of man moving toward this negation of thought and time and memory?
I would say liberate negatively from the self. Because the moment you exercise will, it becomes a positive, and then there's another form of self.
So you would feel that the will is not involved in that at all.
Will is desire.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, will creates suppression, contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
I will not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're having problems with our words again here.
Will.
Let's take the word love. The way I have always understood love was that it's a particular way man wills. He gives himself.
I can't give myself if I will to will. Good Lord, that's an act of volition based on my pleasure.
Well, maybe that's the way.
No, I'm saying, will. So to use exercise will,
mm-hmm.
which means what? Conquering.
Yeah, well, that's not the way I would use the word, I guess.
I'm exploring that word,
mm-hmm.
conquering, suppressing, controlling, changing from this to that.
Giving it
a
certain direction to my life.
And all control and all that is form of will. Which is not necessary when I see danger. I see danger only when there is freedom.
Yeah. The real practical case out of which all of these, I think all of these questions are arising is an attempt to understand this description that you have been giving of seeing, you know. And I'm puzzled as to why, that would happen in some cases and not happen in others. If it is all predetermined, then
of course, and then you're lost.
Maybe the words that you're using to express what I would express by will are the use of energy.
Yes, and that's right, sir.
Perhaps.
Energy. Let's use that word, energy. I need energy to perceive. Okay. I cannot have total energy if I'm dissipating in various directions. And I need complete energy to observe. I do this when there is danger, physical danger. All my body, adrenal glands, everything operates, and I have energy to run or do something about it. Psychologically, we are not aware of this danger, inward danger of things. And we just trot along,